I'm Supermoon Tarot, and in today's video we are going to be looking at what brings your inner self the most joy. This is one of those seemingly very simple questions that causes a wonderful domino effect in your life. Because what happens is, I can't speak for everybody, but I would say the vast majority of us are in the pursuit of happiness throughout our entire life. What's going to make our life better? And we often sort of say, this is what makes me happy, but also I'd like to manifest. Well, what if, as you were feeling happy, you naturally became a magnet for other wonderful things in your life you don't really have to think about? Whether that be anything from money, opportunities, love, but we're just talking about, you stumble upon a wonderful spot in nature and it totally uplifts you and inspires you. What about you don't even have to think about it, but as you're pursuing whatever you're interested in, money just coming your way, just constantly flowing your way, and you just always feel relaxed and totally you know what I mean? And that's basically what we're going for, because wherever you're asking the question of whatever brings you joy or makes you generally happy, you're going to get a different answer. So there's a part of you on one surface level that might go, that's the thing that's going to make me happy. And in reality, it definitely is a cool thing, but at its core isn't going to really make you happy. It's not really solving what you secretly want. And within itself, it isn't creating the magnetic effect we're talking about here. It's still valid because remember, every layer of you is, and by understanding, well, why did you ask for this, not that, helps you better understand yourself. But when we talk about your inner self, we're talking about the part of you deep down, underneath all the layers. Because remember, all the other things like we're working through, processing, those are just layers. Those are just layers of who we are, but that inner self, that's the part of yourself that you can't lie to, that won't lie back to you, that can't be affected by anything. Past, present, future, nothing. It's just you. It's just the core of who you are. And so we're looking into that to not only have a better subtext, because there's always subtext when it comes to these questions, and it's something I always implore when it comes to you exploring yourself and your why you do what you do and everything. Like when we talk about just processing life, when we talk about going to the spirit realm, we talk about tarot, anything, you always want to look for subtext. But we can also point you in the right direction, because again, you might be really focused over here and have no idea you should probably be focusing over here. Because as you focus over here, again, going back to the main point, not only do you feel more of a deeper joy, because you're like, yeah, like that's what I really want. But as you practice interacting with what feels the best, and we're talking about what makes you feel like you and brings you that deep down joy, we're also building up an environment where you're telling the universe and everything that interacts with you and your reality, I really only want things that make me feel like me. And we're just bringing it to you. You don't have to lift a finger. You're enjoying yourself now, and you're building something that's creating more of an effect like that. So as you can tell, very simple question, really awesome, bigger domino effect result. But that's what I'm always going for with these readings, and I hope you enjoy that too. Please let me know in the comments below. I would love to know. And also, I haven't asked this in a while, but I am always happy to take any suggestions when it comes to tarot readings. I'd love to know if you have any specific requests, but I would also love to know in the comments below, right now, if you thought about it, what do you think brings you joy? And do you feel like it will line up with what we're going to go into, or do you think there's something else, hidden beneath your surface? Or, to be honest with you, as you know, again, as I like to go deep into these readings, maybe what we find in the reading does line up with what you enjoy, but you didn't even realize that you could appreciate it or interact with it in a different way that then can create this deeper level experience. Now, going forward, I also want to let you guys know that if you would like to support me, an easy way to do so is I have a Patreon, but and I'm so excited and proud of this, I almost have over 200 videos, I'm so sorry, my goodness, videos over there. And these videos are such a wide range. Over there, I have almost 200 videos that are a very wide range from things that you can interact with. Like I have tons of guided meditations where we go into interacting with ourselves, the spirit realm. We do anything from looking into ancestor work to time travel to communicating with our pets, like anything like that, to things that are going into deeper spiritual meanings, because I go into the Akashic records and I communicate with my spirit guides and I share live trips to the spirit realm and we answer questions, and it's just a really good time over there. And I just posted 3 new videos. One of those videos is about mandala effects, just going into what are they and why do they exist. And I gotta tell you, I was deeply surprised by the results and very happy by the results. It's just not what you think it would be. And the way they function isn't how you think they are. It's not as random as you think. The second thing I put up there is I'm really excited to say I am officially a Reiki master. And during my processing of being attuned and growing in this way, I was fortunate enough to meet and become very close with and get to know the spirit of Reiki. And so we go into, first of all, I show you what they look like. I talk about my experiences with them, what they're like, what it all greater means, my experiences with some other Reiki masters that are of note, and it's just a fun time over there. It's very, very, very in depth, and I'm happy to go into even more depth if you guys are interested. And then the third video is I made a video showing off these 3 new tarot decks, which I could not be more obsessed with. I debuted them last video where we talk about the Akashic records, and basically each one of these decks sort of all intertwine with each other. So one deck, they're all Rider-Waite inspired. One deck shows the moment right before the tarot, the event happens. One deck shows the moment before the event happens in the card. One deck shows sort of a reimagining of what that would look like in the present moment and gives greater context to the meaning. And then the last deck shows the moment right after the decision is made within the deck itself. So it's very cool. As you can see, you can get a lot of greater context in it. I go into great depth comparing all 3 of them, showing the like possibilities behind them and examples. It's a fun time. So definitely go check that out as well over on my Patreon. In addition to that, I want to let you guys know I have a brand new meditation course. I couldn't be more proud of this. I have over 17 and a half years of experience myself, but in addition to my own knowledge, I consulted the Akashic records and my spirit guides, and I just love it. It is, see, here's the thing. Meditation is the foundation that I built everything else on. It made me a better spirit realm traveler. It made me better at asking questions, whether I'm in the spirit realm or not, or being able to dig deep into the truth in order to bring that back. It is the thing that helped me out through tough times. It's the thing that meditation, things like focusing, patience, relaxation, those are byproducts. Meditation is actually a thinking person's practice. So if you ever like, well, my mind wanders and I've just never been good at it, and like, what could it possibly offer? We go into what a benefit that is and how that unlocks creativity, problem solving, reimagining things, and how that, again, just like this question, creates a domino effect of positivity, productivity, and consciousness in your life. That's the big thing, is whenever it comes to any of my courses, we talk about this idea that there is a way you can be conscious of your own life rather than feeling like it's happening at you. You can be aware of it and work with it and change it. So, well, in the meditation course, we go into the whole layers of your consciousness, discussing it in greater detail. We talk about going into the layers of the universe and what that exactly means. There's a lot of both practical stuff you can use and stuff I am certain you've never heard before. There's excerpts from my spirit guides. It's just a really fun, relaxing time where you just get to chill out. It's like you're having like one of those deep conversations you have with a good friend, and then you just sort of sit there, vibe, enjoy, learn without having to pick up a pencil, and then get to meditate and go in deeper. It just really makes it a very fun low-key, relaxing experience, which is what it should be. So that is there, as well as my intuition training course where I teach you how to go back and forth with the spirit realm and the values of that, as well as my tarot training course, which goes into tarot, simplifying it, getting you right into it without losing any of the details with all of my secrets. And all of that information can be found in the description below. So going back to what we were talking about before, we've got four groups in front of us. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to take a moment to look inwards and consciously say, I'm connecting to my inner self, and connect to it. And then as you connect to it, ask yourself, what brings me the most joy? Take it a second to do that, and then choose your card. I'm going to give you a moment to do so. Now that you've done that, you can also go to the description to skip to your designated group, and it's marked timestamp. Thank you for everything. I am sincerely wishing you the best. Let's get started with group number 1. Group number 1, let's find out what brings your inner self the most joy by looking at the cards. We have Judgment upright. That's an interesting one. I can already hear my spirit guide telling me about that one. We have 6 of Wands upright, 3 of Pentacles in reverse. Oh, interesting. 5 of Wands in reverse, 7 of Cups in reverse, and 9 of Cups in reverse. Okay, before I even get into evaluating this, I can tell you right now, I am speaking to an extrovert introvert. Definitely you find a lot of peace by doing things yourself. You know, you'd like to relax, decompress from both the outside world and maybe the inside world you create for yourself. But there is definitely a desire and a sense of thrill and funness with sharing things with people. It's very like, look at this, isn't this cool? Okay, I need space now. Hey, do you think this is, are you enjoying? What do you think? Oh, I love you so much, but I do need to like now recharge. So it's very much that type of vibe going on, which I love. So just give me one moment to look at the details of all these cards and consult my spirit guide. Okay, let's get started with this. It is just what I thought it was, which I love. So first, let's start off with this. I do want to mention a lot of these are more on the conceptual side, which is really fun and makes sense because while I would not be surprised if in these readings, you know, your inner self is like, I specifically like this one thing. You know, we're always growing and changing and don't have to be limited to one concept or hobby or thing. And honestly, the things that bring us most joy, in many cases, are that interaction, that bigger idea, so on and so forth. So I love this because this is something that you can consciously give more attention to in order to get the most amount of happiness. So first over here, this is really interesting. So if you look at this imagery, we have someone pouring all these cups, but for himself. And he's like, look at me, look at all this stuff I have. He's really enjoying it. And we can see the cute little faces of these two individuals being like, oh, I wish I could have some. That would be so nice. Look at how well he's doing. This card is considered the wish card. It's basically a very positive manifestation card. It's the most low-key manifestation card. Magician's like inspiring you that you can do it, that you have the capabilities, but it's very proactive in the person consciously manifesting. This card is like, whatever you wish for, you get. You know what I mean? And this situation, when we look at the imagery of the cards and diving deeper with my spirit guide, they were telling me something that really brings you happiness is being in a state of constant receiving of your manifestations, like you're very consciously aware of your abundance, like that is a happiness for you, not just being like, this is a thing I'd like, and then you receive it, and then that's the end of it. You're like, look at how well I'm doing. Look at it all around me. I'm very aware of it happening. I enjoy feeling the results of all the good fortune that's coming my way. Look at all these opportunities. Look at how great everything is. There's a feeling of wanting to be surrounded and being very aware of it. But when we have this card in reverse, it talks about this idea that you like to simultaneously be aware and conscious of this abundance you're having in your life, but you really do love sharing that with other people. And it's not the primary focus of sharing with other people. It's like you like knowing you're doing so well that you can share with other people. It's kind of like when people dream about, well, if I had this much money, I would do this. It's very much like that, especially with like your loved ones and people you really care about that come into your life. And I kind of almost get this vibe. Let me just double check with my spirit guide. My spirit guide said in many cases, okay, to what I'm about to say, which is maybe you just feel like a connection with someone and they're just an acquaintance and you don't know them really well, but if they kind of catch you on a good day, you're more than happy to share with them type of thing. But here's the main thing. It's not the sharing with people. It's that you're doing so well. You're aware of it. You're enjoying that consciousness of the flow. And then you're like, and because I'm doing so great, I can share that. Now, what do you do with this piece of information? This is something where it can definitely help you with manifesting consciously by being in that state of mind, by regularly being like, okay, so if I really like being aware of all my options and the things I'm receiving, I would definitely take note whenever you put into the universe, I'd like to manifest this, I'd like to manifest that. Like get into a flow of regularly asking for things and then sort of forgetting about it, letting it go and letting it come your way. But as you do, whenever you notice it happen, like you mentioned something small and then it popped up, it doesn't always have to be an object. Sometimes it could be like, oh, I wish I had more time, then you got more time, you know, things like that. Definitely take a moment to just be like, look at this. I did it. I wished for it. It came my way. I'm always receiving. I'm always abundant. Start to have that be your narrative whenever you notice yourself successfully manifesting. Like let that be your primary focus rather than worrying about the ones that didn't work out or whatever. Remember, that will change over time, but you got to start somewhere. Manifesting is like a practice. You know, think of it that way. You're exercising it. But also anything just of good fortune in your life. Oh, look at this. And you want to, and it's not about being grateful, because grateful is more of an idea of presence. We're talking about anytime something comes your way. Oh, look at that. It was so easy for me to order my food. I got my food. I've got my favorite show. You're constantly saying the things that are coming into your life. And then when you do feel like you are able to share that with someone, enjoy that. So you don't need to, you know, make $1,000 and then have to give 200 of it away right away, especially because I feel like a lot of people are like, no, I need that whole, you know, amount for themselves. But, you know, if you feel like you're celebrating because you're enjoying yourself that night because of this big win, and you're treating yourself to like some sort of fun snack dinner night or something like yourself, invite a friend over, share that food with them or something like that. Or maybe you can get your friend like a small little present. It doesn't have to be big, but when you are able to share, share. If you've got extra fries, share the extra fries, that type of thing. Again, within reason. If that, in that moment, if that idea doesn't make you happy, then don't do it. But when you're feeling that love, share it. I do want to mindfully just put this out there, just with love. Sometimes when we're feeling generous, and we're generous people, we might be too generous. Do make sure you put yourself first and you put your enjoyment first. The sharing is the byproduct. Don't give yourself away, basically. But I don't think that's going to be an issue for it. I don't really see that popping up in the cards. But that concept of wanting to be consciously aware of your abundance and sort of like have it all around you type of vibe continues narratively over here, and definitely over here as well in these card readings. In this card reading, in the cards. So over here in the Seven of Cups, again, this talks about this idea of it's just a real joy for you to feel like you have tons of opportunities. You feel like you thrive more if it's not just like, here's your one single option, hopefully it works out. I would definitely recommend, if you do not see the options in front of you, coming your way yet because you're like in this process of giving in this state of mind, don't take that as an it doesn't work, it doesn't help, and then stressing about it. Create those options for yourself. Like, yes, you're going to have times where it's just naturally flowing your way, and you're going to, as we spoke about in this reading, naturally get into that state of mind and then attract it naturally. But there's nothing wrong with, like, so let's say you wanted to go have plans with a friend, right? And let's say you are a little bit in your head about being like, oh man, I don't even know if I have a lot of friends, and I'm happy to go see this one, but I feel a little lame that this is my one social thing I'm doing for a while, blah, blah, blah. Let's just say that's an example, right? There's nothing stopping you from finding like clubs and things to do where you can meet other people. There's nothing stopping you from, in a very safe way, reaching out to someone that you haven't seen in a while. They don't have to be your best friend to go see a movie or something like that. And you can create a bunch of scenarios for yourself along with some of them that are naturally coming into your life. But with that concept being reconfirmed again over here, something really important that's going on in this Seven of Cups part is you want to feel like making decisions when it comes to these opportunities feels seamless. You want to feel like you have all of these things you can choose from, but that when you do need to make the choice out of the social events or the career or whatever that you have. Oh, and by the way, I'm just putting this out there. When I said make a bunch of social events, that doesn't mean make a bunch of social events and then ditch everyone else for the one social event. That's kind of bizarre and cruel. I'm talking about you have a bunch of job opportunities. You're going to choose one of the job opportunities, that kind of concept when we talk about making a decision. But you want to feel like you both have all the options that you can choose the best one from, but you want to feel like it's easy and simple. This one is super easy to work on. You can start really small by making a bunch of choices. Like say to yourself, you know, again, you're going to go get food. Name a bunch of things that you potentially could want and then make your choice from there. And you could break this down from anything from what's just your natural impulse. And that sometimes is guiding your way. And then you could change up that decision making and say, I'm going to look at the pros and cons. But you can also, I actually talked about this in depth on my Patreon, but fun fact, you can turn your inner self into a, what's it called? A human pendulum. And basically what you do, you want to do this safely, obviously. You want to do this if you have balance issues, don't do this type of thing. But you're going to stand on sort of the middle part of your foot. So not fully on the ball of your foot or the toes, just sort of the middle part where it feels like you could go either way, like you're gently sitting in that way. And then you're going to ask your inner self, hey, is this what I want? Does this make me feel like more like me? That's another great question I went into depth over on Patreon. But forward is yes, backwards is no. And again, you're kind of tipping a little bit forward or tipping a little back, not fully falling back, not fully falling forward. It's not meant to be, you know, it's a safe thing. But you can essentially turn that into a decision-making thing, but you want to feel like as you're making them, you're not in your head about it, you don't have regret and things like that. And this is when you can practice things like, well, why should I stress? There's always more options around me. I'm naturally somebody who always has opportunities, so even if I find out it isn't what I want, I could easily change everything overnight in a week, go get the next better job, whatever, like that. It's not a big deal. There's nothing to regret. And then I can know I made I experienced it, and that ultimately I can cross that off in my decision making. Things like that. So you have a rotation in this situation. Something that makes you happy is having a bunch of things around you and then rotating around your different, whatever works best for your decision making, because it makes you feel good to feel like you're making the right choices going forward. And then if there is the concern of, but what if, you can just reassure yourself that there's tons of options. You can, there's always a solution. You always can find an answer. And that just because you made a little bit of a decision that didn't work for you initially, you can instantly change it and then have it be what you want. So then going forward, we then have the Five of Wands. Now this one gave me very interesting subtext. I thought about that too here in the Three of Pentacles as well. Even in this Judgment card as well, but in the Five of Wands, it distinctly talks about your lack of confrontation you want in your life. If somebody is consciously being like, I would like an environment where I don't have to deal with constant pushback, because that's the big thing. Five of Wands does talk about when people like fight and disagree, and that alone is annoying. But I would also say there's this feeling in the Five of Wands where nobody's coming to a set conclusion and nobody's willing to back down from their belief systems. So there's just a bouncing off of each other. And that doesn't mean you need to compromise. Sometimes this card talks about the idea of both parties needing to compromise and come together better. But in this case, in the scenario, I just think, wow, someone's really like putting you in a position mentally to have this at the forefront of your wishing right now. So that just lets me know a little bit more about you, and like that must be so unbelievably frustrating. I think all of us have been there at some point in our life, multiple times in our life. But the biggest thing I would say right now with this thing is work with what you can do. One, in some cases, there's more power than you are giving yourself, and you could easily move out, stop being friends with them, stop dating them, stop a lot of things, just overnight and instantly solve it, and be like, you know what, this is of more importance to me. I keep making excuses of why we should know each other, but this is bringing, if I'm dreaming of not being with you or having peace over here, you see what I'm saying here? Like, you can easily make the option. And in other choices where you're like, this is the circumstance, I'm currently with them, I can't really move out, it's a financial reason, it's an emotional reason, this is what's happening right now, then guess what? Work with what you can do at this moment. It can change, it can grow, it can get better, and you can manifest even more of it. What you're gonna do is you're gonna go out of your way to find space where you can have being left alone by them. This can be anything from a walk, to hanging out at the library, to maybe a friend's house, anything. And instead of it feeling like this anticipation that you're going to eventually go back into that environment where you're going to see this other individual or circumstance, you're going to instead, when you are in those times of peace and you can find them, you can do it. Even if it's like a tiny little, you know, nook in your room or whatever, find it, find this peace wherever it is. And whenever you're in it, you're going to start building up this mantra of being like, oh, I'm so relaxed. This is so nice. I'm so happy it's so easy for me to always find a place where I can just sort of decompress, not think, and everything flows easily. And you're just really starting to build this mantra and attachment and consciousness in the moment, present moment, when you are not dealing with this confrontation and you're getting those moments of peace, where you're building more of your environment and mantra on the idea of being like, yeah, this is my norm. I'm aware of it. I'm enjoying it. It's becoming more and more common, and you're just really enjoying the most out of it. And that becomes more of your focus rather than the anticipation sometimes comes with when people are in this type of environment. When they are getting that relaxing time, they're just consciously thinking, I have to go back, I have to go back. And they're not really enjoying that time of peace. So you're gonna manually go out of your way every day. It's your primary focus. You're gonna find your place of peace. And then you're not gonna complain about anything. Not that, I mean, you're fine to express yourself, but I'm saying you're gonna make your primary focus during that time period being like, so easy. Isn't this so great? This is my norm. This is who I am. Do you see what I'm saying here? And that's really going to build up over time and have you connect and enjoy what it is, what you really want. Because when you're not practicing that, when you are not carving out that space for yourself, when you're not cutting off ties when you could, when you're not in that moment from the separation, from the confrontation, enjoying it, then you wonder why later you didn't feel more at peace, or you feel like this confrontation's constantly following you. You need to set aside mental energy during that time period that you're acknowledging you're getting that peace. So love that for you. Love peace and quiet for you. You definitely, I should keep an eye out for like, if you, like, it's good for us to know different people and people of different situations and stuff like that. And it's okay to disagree and like work through things and all that beautiful stuff. I want to be absolutely clear about that. But in your life right now, there's also nothing wrong with being like, man, being friends with you or knowing you or whoever is just too hard. this is exhausting, and you just want someone to agree with you. You just want to find people with similar interests and vibe and it feel effortless. And guess what? That's okay. Go for that. Seek that out. Look for that more instead of feeling frustrated when you feel there's the pushback of somebody else. Again, you're seeking, regularly focusing on being like, I like this, I like things being smooth and easy, I like feeling at peace when I'm with other people, that type of scenario and situation. Find it with the people you can. Move in that direction. Now going forward, we have, speaking of people, we have the Three of Pentacles in reverse. Now this is really cute and funny because essentially what it talks about is this idea where you want to, and this specifically talks about the idea of when you're working on something. So I primarily get focused on the idea of what you accomplish, like what would be like a craft, a hobby, something like that. But this can also be like your career, your job, anything like that. But it's this idea of you making or creating something, whether it be for financial gain or not. And there's a part of you that wants to do it alone. You want to be your own boss. You're not really interested in people putting you in positions where you have to sort of sacrifice this thing you're enjoying in order to make someone else happy. You want to do it your way, and you have a clear vision and you're good at it. But you would still like to, on some level, know other people in this field in order to share your ideas with them. So like a good example of this is like, let's say you went to art school. You don't want the teacher telling you what to do. You want to be in your own little corner, doing what you want to do in the studio, but you would like to every now and then get up and turn to your peers and be like, hey, we're all working on the same project. What is your interpretation of this project? And you want to share ideas and feel like other people understand you in this kind of way. So I would definitely seek that out like right now. Find your independence, but also there's nothing wrong with going out of your way for finding peers you can share this with. Like I would recommend going the extra step. So like, let's say you have a solitary job where you work at home and you make things on your own. You're some sort of artisan of some kind. And let's say you you have social media. And so you have peers in that way. And you might like some of their posts and they like yours, but go out of your way to make friends with them. Go out of your way to talk and share techniques and ideas, obviously with people you trust. But what I'm saying is, go that extra mile to build a little community where you just kind of chat every now and then. And also, do not underestimate being very open about your social comfortability. There is nothing wrong, and I'm just telling you right now from personal experience, there's nothing wrong with being really open and being like, hey, I would love to chat and be friends with you, but realistically, we're only going to talk maybe like every few weeks or something like that. That's like socially all I can really handle or something like that. And just be open about that type of thing of your availability. So that way they know like, hey, when I'm away, still love you, we're still cool, I just need to be alone. But in the meantime, also this. So again, you want that sense of independence, doing it on your own. It makes you really happy, but there's still this sense of wanting to share it with like-minded individuals, which is really fun and cool. And honestly, very easy solution in any circumstance. You can totally find it. I would also recommend thinking about this if you're in an environment where you're like, well, I have my peers, but right now I don't have my freedom. You can figure out, if you sit down and brainstorm, a solution to have both. Or you can request the universe throw something your way, to be honest with you. Going forward, now we have the Six of Wands. Now this traditionally talks about this idea of being recognized, stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that that's something you like. We talk about it over here and over here. You like to be appreciated for sure. That is an element to this card popping up. Like you like people to be like, wow, you did such a good job, and receiving that positive accolade. But something in specific that sticks out to me that I notice in the Six of Wands is, if you look, this individual has wrapped up this wand and it looks like a little present and there's a little bow. Again, it's very similar confirmation as we talk about over here, this act of wanting to give. But again, it goes back to this idea of wanting to give to other people. Over here, it's more of like a charitable thing, like I love you so much and I love through acts of giving gifts kind of thing, or receiving gifts. But here it's more focused on this idea that you like to create some form of a fantasy world. This can be very direct, like something cosplaying, something like that. But it's this environment where you're like, this is my happy space. And these are all the little details and elements a part of it. This is how I want it to feel and vibe. But the joy doesn't even just come from the creating of the environment and the situation to work out in this kind of way, this like makeshift possibility world type of thing you're creating. It's bringing other people into it that just really gets you fired up. It's that, again, it doesn't feel like it's solely based on this charitable act. It's like, imagine you were really being spontaneous and creative and you decorated a part of your living room to be like a fun fort, right? And you put up fairy lights and pillows. In fact, actually, please sound off in the comments below if you guys have been doing that recently. I would love to know of your fort techniques and if you've been having fun in that way. That's so cool. But this individual, or the person in the card I'm talking about, it's like, if you made that fort, it's like, okay, it exists. Here it is. And there's this really comes to life of the whole vision when you get to have like a fun hangout with a friend in the fort. And you're just having a good time. And you're like, yeah, look at what, and you're sharing everything you created. It's that act of being like, look what I made, seeing their light up, being brought up into the world. The world comes to life with this, you know, civilian audience type of scenario that makes the whole thing fun. So it's you going out of your way, when we talk about what brings yourself joy, you going out of your way to create these fun environments and then going out of your way to find somebody to bring into it and then get that little spark in you by sharing it and having this good time. Oh, this was my technique. This is what I would like to do. This is what I was going for. Oh, wow, you think this, that type of scenario and situation. And then last but not least, judgment. This one kind of is very serious out of nowhere compared to all of these more like lighthearted, very like sharing, wanting peace to yourself. So in the judgment card, it says two things specifically. One, there is this simplicity, again, going back to, and again, it gives a subtext to the Five of Wands. Sorry about the interruption. Going back to what we were just talking about. There's one idea where you are saying sort of to the universe, very similar to over here where we said the subtext of not fighting. There's a part of you that's like, I would like that my general people I interact with, and this is gonna sound a lot more lofty than I mean it to be, but it's like morally. Sorry about that interruption. Going back to what we were talking about. Like over here in the Five of Wands where there's subtext to the lack of confrontation, this one's got some subtext too. What I'm about to say is going to sound a lot more intense than I mean it to be, but stick with me here. There's a desire on one hand, and we talk about the two different meanings, that you would love your general peers around you to be very morally clear about their intentions. So what I mean by this statement is you are not, lording over people, intense, did you do this? What does this mean? No, that's just not the vibe. It's more that you definitely want, have you ever been friends with someone and you're vibing and you're having a good time and then you learn about how they view other people or the world or how they approach a situation and you're kind of like, you do you, but I just don't know if I can get down with that. And you would like your general, whoever's in your group and people like that, for that to be consistent, for you to feel like you're both on the same mindset when it comes to interacting with the world, with individuals, making decisions, things like that. There's just a general, again, you're not thinking right and wrong and good and bad. And again, not serious like that. But there is very clear, ooh, I definitely wouldn't do that or want that to happen. I feel a little weird now. That's something you're cool with. You know what I mean? It's that type of concept scenario. You're not judging people, but you do have a clear sense of what you would like going forward when interacting with others. And you would like your general, like whoever's in your sort of social circle and stuff to be that way too. That definitely is a sense of relaxation that you're all on the same page. But the other part of it is really interesting. It talks about the act and concern of how others are judging you simultaneously. My spirit guide said something very specifically. They said, tell them they are not judged as harshly as they think others are toward them. There's this wish and desire that others aren't feeling certain ways about you. But it's sort of all in your head that you're thinking they are judging you. You think they're judging you harshly. You're like, oh, they probably think this about me. They think that. There's very much that going on. And I'm going to just tell you, I'm going to let you in on a little secret right now. When we are concerned what other people think, or we are, in fact, putting that judgment on ourselves and just in general, the two are one and the same, but just in general, we can do it in really subtle ways. Like we can bring ourselves down or think others are thinking things about us in such indirect ways that are not simply, oh, they must think I'm not great. It's so much more subtle. And then before you know it, you're like, man, why do I feel so bad? Because you've kind of covertly learned how to do this on a level where even your conscious brain isn't like, wait a minute, that's not very nice. We shouldn't say that about ourselves. That type of scenario and idea. So I would definitely start to practice and connecting to these ideas that your peers are not feeling that way about you. Like, don't be afraid to just be like, hey, when I do this, what do you think about that? And find out if you do feel like they're judging you. Great, now you know, get them out of your life. That's not the vibe. But if you learn like they don't feel that way at all, and you start to decipher between intuition and you're like psychically feeling it, or it was in your head and you like learn that over time by getting more in touch with yourself and what your people think and feel around you, because sometimes you might genuinely be feeling that they are judging you. I don't want to put that like make you start to like question yourself, but you'll learn how to have both options in your life and figure out who's who. And when you do, and you start to be like, okay, so they're not judging me, I would start to actively fill the way you express to yourself or think about things in ways that are uplifting or helping you feel more special about yourself. Because over time, it's not just the mantra to lift you up and make you feel good about yourself, but because you are in very covert ways bringing yourself down, you might not be able to under the surface realize when you're doing that. But if you replace all of that verbiage with something that's the opposite, it's sort of like by default you're dealing with it. I want to be clear, there is nothing wrong with developing the ability to become more aware of this subconscious judgment you have in yourself. In fact, I definitely say go look into it. But sometimes, especially in the beginning, if you're like, okay, well, how do I even identify this? How do I even look into this? It would take me time. How do I feel better now? Here's a solution to feel better now as you better understand. And sometimes just having a break from that judgment you're putting on yourself, what ends up happening is you look back and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize that's how I thought or I expressed myself to myself or others. Oh, now I see it. Now that I've lived in one type of consciousness and mantra and stuff like that, I'm very aware of this. And that in itself can make you more aware. Again, we're not criticizing it, or you're not, definitely be careful if you find yourself being like, I shouldn't think like that. That's not helpful. It's okay. You're allowed to think however you want to think. It's just this idea that you're aware of how you're doing it subtly and how you can replace those thoughts. So when you think it, just be like, oh, I'm going to just pause for a moment and let me exercise something else. Or often what's a great idea is to pause, take a break from thinking at all, relax, come back to it with a different positive mind frame. Or I always like to think of it this way. What would you like to hear about yourself? What would you like to happen? Think of that. Think of what you would like it to be. And then focus your attention there instead. So I love this for you. I loved how specific it got. You know how we get over here. We get very specific. And I really like how it talks about the nuance of people. It's like, yes, you want abundance, but you like being able to be aware of that abundance and then be able to feel it even more by connecting it with others. You like to be able to feel like you have all this abundance, but when you do need to make a decision, you feel confident about it. There's so many layers going on here, and I hope this is something you actively practice consciously. I would definitely recommend when you're going about living life, making decisions, being very literal to yourself. I see that I'm being more abundant in this way. I think this would make me more happy if I share this with someone, and then going out of your way to practice this. I am just so excited for you to practice all these things because they're very much within your reach, and I love this for you. And please let me know what you think in the comments below. I would really love to know. And in addition to that, please leave this video a like, a comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2. Let's find out what brings your inner self the most joy by looking at the cards. First, we have the World card, upright. You know, this imagery of this particular World card has definitely piqued my interest. We have 3 of Cups in reverse, the Page of Pentacles in reverse. Oh, look at that Moon card. That is a really great Moon card. And we have 8 of Cups in reverse. Okay, I'm definitely very curious. We have a very interesting eclectic vibe going on here. Just give me one moment to look over the details of everything and consult my spirit guides. Also, I love everything being centered. It looks really nice. Yeah, ooh. This is super varied. I already get a very clear vibe of who you are as a person, which is really great. I would definitely describe you as someone who's like magical, super knowledgeable, but instead of it being purely about your intelligence, it's like the joy of knowing things. And not implying you're not also intelligent, but like that's something that's really popping up a lot in this. And also, I just really love the abstract breakdown of some of these concepts. It's just really fun for me as a reader. So let's get into this. So first, the World card. And this is what I mean initially by that concept of abstractness I was just referring to. So my spirit guide was pointing out, and I love this, if you are familiar with tarot and the within the deck, the Magician card. The Magician card has each one of these suit representatives. We have energy, we've got money, or like earthly type of experiences like your body and stuff, taking care of yourself. We have logic, knowledge, ideas. Water Cups is referring to like your emotions and relationships and stuff like that. And with the Magician card, it implies that because he's interacting with all of them and he's so acutely aware of how they all consciously work independently and together, he's able to wield them to then manifest. Now, traditionally, the World card doesn't really talk about manifestation, but in this particular case, it actually talks about sort of a combination of your general happiness. It's funny, we actually talk about manifestation in great detail over here, but this is more greatly understanding how you function with those elements. We understand how the Magician functions and how that joy brings him success and manifestation in his knowledge. But what's going on here is really interesting is if you notice in the imagery in the Magician card, he's interacting with those concepts directly. In these concepts are around our individual in the middle. But if you notice, there's this little braid going on around her, like not a separation from those ideas, but she's not needing to directly interact with them. And this is how my spirit guide described understanding yourself, interacting with it, how you function best. And there's this great subtext in what my spirit guide said, so that going forward in life, if you're ever feeling like imbalanced, this is a great way of approaching it because you understand your just general sense of happiness and how you like to work. So like we talked about, again, in the magician card, there's a lot of like very high level of self-awareness, regularly interacting things, controlling things at all times. With you, you are the centerpiece of your life. And that means you like to have every single aspect of your life pretty great. You like to feel like you're expressing yourself well. You like to feel like your relationships with other people are good and you're feeling emotionally balanced. You like to feel like you've got enough money and that you feel really connected to yourself as a physical individual. Sorry about that interruption. Going back to what we were talking about. So you like to feel energetically you're balanced and all that good jazz. You want it all. Some people feel like they have a particular focus in their life, and if something is not exactly how they want it to be, they can mostly find happiness and good. You want it all. However, you don't want to constantly be managing it. And honestly, you don't really need to constantly look into these things and make sure that they are functioning their best. You will feel if something is off. So there's this ebb and flow of happiness where you want it all, but you don't really want to have to manage all. You just want it all operating on its own, and it can operate on its own. But then this is where the understanding of the subtext of like, if you want to like better understand yourself when you feel off and how to remedy that. My spirit guide said, so let's say like you're not feeling like you're expressing yourself well enough or connecting to ideas and that feels off, right? For you, that's not good enough. You want every aspect of your life to be just like the best it possibly can be and benefit from all of that essentially. And so what my spirit guide said is you would initially go, okay, I'm going to go give that a little bit of focus, hands-on effect. And I'm going to make sure that I'm giving it extra time. You could do this through anything because, you know, each individual thing can be handled on its own. Maybe you exercise regularly expressing yourself more or connecting to feeling like more confident about that. Maybe you like tell your friends about it, get it off your chest, whatever you need to do in order to process that idea. And then once you're like, you know what, I'm feeling better, I'm connecting to ideas better, I'm expressing myself better, then what makes you feel best, and again back to that inner joy, is you sort of just like stop focusing on that and go back to you being the main priority, which essentially just means you're making choices and ideas however you want to make them. You're following, hobbies you're interested in and you're living life, but you're not constantly asking yourself, oh, am I expressing myself the best? You're going to feel if you're not expressing yourself. Oh my gosh, emotionally, am I okay? Do I need to check in with it? You will check in with it naturally because you feel yourself reacting to something off. You like it all existing and it can naturally exist on its own, but you're going to notice the second something's off. But once you do, my spirit guide said that you want to exercise this level of trust that it's all, working itself out and operating on its own once you get it piloted correctly. So again, we're focusing on this idea that you love every aspect of your life functioning well, but you don't want to constantly be focused on having to manage it. Once you notice something's off, you delegate the specifics of what's off, you fix it, but then once you've got that sorted, you don't need to constantly come up with backup plans and keep an eye on it or be in fear that it's going to be off. Or this is a huge thing people do. It is always good to be open about maybe where you were at different aspects of your life, especially if you were like, yeah, at one time I struggled with that. But sometimes in people expressing themselves and being who they are, they keep creating a narrative and saying it so often, there's a certain point where they allow it to kind of become part of their identity. I'm not saying this for everyone based on what I'm explaining. I'm just saying examples that can happen. So essentially what basically you're being asked to in this card to not do is like, let's say at one point you were struggling with your emotions, feeling like being able to process them and connect to them, right? You wouldn't, after you sort that out, constantly go back to expressing yourself to other people and being like, yeah, I really struggle with that. It's like, well, but you're not struggling with that now. And if it happens again, you can easily deal with it. But right now you're actually thriving and you can allow yourself through your verbiage and expressing yourself to others to just thrive. Again, we're not talking about hiding that part of yourself or not discussing it or avoiding it. It's just that once it gets, remedied, your average interaction and connecting with people would be like, yep, this is who I am. And yeah, I've dealt with that. And if it happens again, I'll deal with that. But right now, this is who I am. Do you see what I'm saying? So I love this. It's a really great way to understand how you function. And it's something to keep in mind going forward. just something to think about if you notice this popping up in your life. So then going forward, as in like if you notice something's off, this is a great way of approaching it for you. Also, one last thing, sorry, I'm not trying to ramble here, but one last thing is, again, something that doesn't bring your joy is if you feel like you have to constantly manage it. If you feel like, let's say again, going back to the emotions thing, you initially work on yourself and you feel a lot more balanced and in control of your emotions and everything like that. If you start to feel impatient or tired or frustrated that you're having to constantly be in touch with it, that's because that part of you doesn't want to constantly monitor it, and you don't need to after you remedy it. Now going forward, we have the Three of Cups. And this is what I'm talking about, and you'll know exactly what I mean as we continue to read in the cards when I said that you have a very specific, like I can read you as a person in a very specific way, like your vibe, and I love it. It's a compliment, but like I really get a sense of who you are as I read these cards and what brings your inner self the most joy. In this one, it talks about this idea that my spirit guide said you have like a social meter, so to speak, and you do have sort of like my social meter's full, I'm kind of getting overwhelmed, I need to be alone. And that's like totally beautiful, and that's a wonderful thing. I personally can totally relate to that, but that's something you really want to monitor, because on one hand, definitely you want to go out, you want to interact with people, you want to get that fill, but it's that ebb and flow of being conscious of not pushing yourself past that meter. Like when you start to feel like, I think I want to go home, don't have this concern that you're going to miss out on something or what other people will think. You're hitting your social meter. Go, retreat, be by yourself, rejuvenate your energy, vibe with your own alone activities, but also be conscious that there's nothing, well, I don't know if anyone would view this negatively personally either way, being social or not social, but don't judge yourself if you're like, is that okay that I really need to like go hang out and connect with people right now? Is that all right? Because I'm normally hanging out by myself. Yes. Oh my gosh, go for it. Go do it, but be aware of that nice little in between of you're hanging out with people. Okay, I'm starting to feel like I'm spent. I'm pulling back. And having that nice mix between getting the benefits of both sides for you, just really just like you thrive in that. But again, that same concept of subtext, this helps you better understand that sort of way you function best, and being so, the best way I can explain it is like not guilty about that really is going to like make you very happy and excited about who you are, because there's this vibe of like, yep, that's who I am. I've hit my point. I'm going to go now. Oh, I want to be social again. And just being like, yep, this is who I am. I totally love and accept this. This is how I work. So I love that for you. Now, this is really fun and super interesting on what's going on here. So on one hand, the Moon card has its own individual meaning that we will reference to, that has that it's on its own, it's its own thing. But the interaction between these cards is very specific that popped up. And again, this really gives me a vibe and a flavor of who you are as an individual, and I love what I'm picking up. I love what you're putting down. So going over here, let's start with the Moon first so it makes better sense with the Page of Pentacles. In this particular case, I want you to look at the imagery of this card. So we have this moon here, and they are showering down their magic is the best way I'm going to explain this. I'm going to do the best I can to not be too redundant with words, because there is a difference in what I'm about to express, but sometimes there's an overlapping concept that can get kind of confusing in the idea and process. So let me actually reverse talking about the moon and talk about the water first. The earth, I talk about the earth. Oh my goodness. Okay, water. Let me stay focused. The water in this particular instance is representing this concept of cosmic knowledge. When we talk about cosmic knowledge here, this is when you start to go beyond what's right in front of you. This would be being able to explain to connect to knowledge and use it that you're not quite sure how to explain to other people that you just know, or you start to ebb into flow into sort of things that are intangible but give you results that are, again, hard to sometimes explain to your average person, because again, it's an intangible thing. This is like when people work with energy, this is people exercising their intuition, this is anything involving like the spirit realm or getting messages, anything like that. But most importantly, it's this concept of spiritual cosmic knowledge that you're connecting to. This is very much the flavor and vibe people feel when they go deep into meditation, and they just feel like when they come out of it, they're not sure how to explain why they're so at peace. And when they feel like they got the answers they needed within that meditation, how it hits different than when they just thought about the idea singularly. This is actually very similar to when you go to the spirit realm too, which is why I'm such an advocate for meditation, going to the spirit realm. Things just go deeper into acceptance and consciousness in a faster way than purely only discussing it out loud. I'm still advocate for all of it, but I'm just saying, go check it out. It's great. Anyway, so going forward, then the earth is more like your physical ideas, anything that's just like face value, tangible, you work with right in front of you type of concept. But sometimes people have trouble interacting with the water. Sometimes people only interact with the earth, only, leave it there as that. And so we have a difference of the dogs over here. We have the lobster. And I never thought about this before until my spirit guide pointed this out right now. They said the lobster gets the benefit of both because technically, obviously, in the ocean, there is still the earth. And so the lobster gets to both, and technically lobsters, walk across the bottom floor of the ocean. So there's this benefit of getting to interact and work and be very conscious of like what's right in front of you, the world in front of you, practical, just like, what do I do next type of logical type of mindset. But then they get the benefit of the water, which, like, let's say you're looking for a job, right? The practical earthly level is, well, I'm going to apply for jobs, I'm going to set up interviews, that type of thing. Or maybe you have your own business, I'm going to get products, I'm going to start an email list, things like that. And then simultaneously, the water would be like, intuitively, I know that I should try going to this place, and intuitively, before I fully understand it, I'm going to actually end up walking into the right person that's going to get me the next interview I need. Or I know I'm supposed to say no to this opportunity because it's going to ultimately make me unhappy and I just can't quite explain, but I feel I'm being drawn into the right decision working with this individual. Or when somebody has like a dream or like an inexplainable epiphany in a moment of quietness when they have an idea for their business that they create, and they're like, yeah, it came to me. And little do they know, they're deeply connecting to their cosmic knowledge, their psychic abilities. Again, people really don't always understand what that exactly entails. And then I'm like, no, it's so cool. Like, you're actually using your abilities, and if you know it, you can work with it more. But that's like an example of when I always say that sometimes psychic abilities, people use it and they don't realize they're using it. So the lobster is getting to benefit from all of that together, right? Compared to these dogs right here. And then the moon is taking that a step further. It's putting all of that into action, or as my spirit guide described it, is sort of like sprinkling this magic, so to speak. And when we think of the conventional idea of magic, because remember, we're not just solely talking about that. So for some of you guys, you actually work with magic and you like do spells and stuff like that. And so this can relate to you in a very literal sense in that way. But other people enact their magic in more of a intangible type of conscious manifesting. They're the same thing, but people just have different approaches. Just putting that out there. So the moon is enacting that. It's like saying, hey, I'm going to take this intuition, cosmic knowledge, and your earthly abilities and interactions, and I'm going to take it to the next level and help you use this consciously. I'm giving you this ability to enact it into the world. Again, somebody putting magic out there, someone actively manifesting that type of thing. But in reverse, this is you actually expressing it out into the world. So the moon is giving you the ability, but in this reverse instance, my spirit guide said, you're taking all of that you know that I just expressed and went into detail with, and you're actively, consciously putting it out there. Again, when we think of somebody consciously manifesting, and I talk about this actually in depth in my meditation course, actually talking about, I go over a whole meditation and explanation explaining the idea of sending and receiving and how it's something that you can consciously work on, not just say, but think of energetically putting out or think of energetically receiving. So what happens is you're using, again, we talked about the example of, you know, some people just literally do like magic and other people enact that form of magic in a different kind of way. But either way, there's a consciousness of being like, I'm going to actively do something. I know I have the ability to actively do something, and I'm using the melting pot of all of these abilities to enact it. Now, on one hand, this alone has its individual card meaning, that there's this deep joy of being really conscious of all these things we put together that you're aware of. You're like, wow, I went for this job and I had this intuitive moment and then I wished for this thing to happen. Look at it all come together. You really love that process, seeing it and enacting it again, not just simply waiting for things to come to you, even though we do talk about that a little bit here, but you like to kind of experiment and see it all happen in front of you and being like, wow, look, I put it out there, I wished for it, I put magic out there, and then I ended up getting it back. Look at that. But simultaneously, this is where the dual meaning comes in, is the interaction with the Page of Pentacles. In this particular instance, it's actually being read pretty literally as in this is how my spirit guide described it, as in the page references the student, and pentacle in this particular instance references finances. There's something that really makes you quite happy about being able to experiment with how you can manifest money and interact with money, and how money can be affected when you either don't enact your, you know, we're just using manifesting as a word here to describe everything, but we're including all activities I just previously mentioned. But the point is, there's a part of you that's like, okay, I would like to receive more money, but instead of you just wishing for it, you like to experiment and be like, it's interesting. When I manifested through meditating, it gave me this result. Interesting. When I manifested through being able to, maybe you wrote down a wish on a individual card and you buried it or something, or mixed it with an ingredient. Ooh, it gave me this result. Interesting. Or maybe sometimes you do one activities and it had success in this department but not another, and you like to understand what that exactly means. It's like you like to be able to not only attract money into your life, and it's specifically money, I want to be clear about this, but there's this fun for you of seeing what yields what results, and you're a bit of like an inventor and scientist in this kind of way. There is a general magicalness to you that you're conscious about, but you like to wield, and it's a really fun part of yourself. Again, there's a part of you that likes to wield it just like in every aspect of your life, but you definitely find a joy of sort of messing with something that society declares as such a, well, you have to do this before you get this. Well, what about, these are the unspoken societal rules of you can't have this without that. And you just love being like, I just wished for it and I did this and I got this. Woo! Anything's possible. Because I do feel that when it comes for us wishing things, sometimes it's easier for us to accept more impossible ideas than just the basic idea that we can attract a certain amount of money into our life. And the really cool thing is, for you just don't want to wait around and hope it will happen. You like being a part of the process. So yes, it's like, yay, money, but it's the process and you being conscious of all the possibilities of how to approach that and being aware of it that's just so fun for you. So definitely something that I would recommend is you having fun by maybe like every couple days or every day, try different techniques out. Keep a record of what worked and what didn't work. Be patient if it takes a little time. Maybe it's really interesting, like we talked about before, sometimes some techniques work for some situations and not others. And as we always talk about, both in my intuition training course, but in every aspect that I talk about over here, it's really important to dig into the deeper meanings. I highly recommend you then asking yourself, interesting, what does it represent or mean, especially metaphorically, that this worked with this, like this thing I did attracted this money, but not over here? And why did this work over here, but not over there? And getting an even deeper subtext to that meaning, which is, as you know, with tarot, is my number one thing I love to do. So very fun, very interesting. And like I said, I'm getting a very clear sense of who you are, and I just love it. I just love it so much. And then finally, again, this really, you can tell how this is very on theme with the other energies and vibes we've got going on with you here in the final card. In the Eight of Cups in reverse, it's funny because it is also facing the moon. So there's, again, a lot of focus to you being proactive when it comes to you exercising all of your various both cosmic knowledge and earthly understandings in a sort of manifestation, magical kind of way. But because you can see there's almost like a traveling and enacting with it. But in the Eight of Cups in reverse right here, it's interesting because I'm only pointing this out if you were a fellow tarot reader, if you're interested in yourself. So this deck is about the moment after something is chosen, but my spirit guide was telling me this is actually about a before moment. So that's just something to remember, that just because you designate a card as positive, negative, or in this particular case, before or after, doesn't mean that is solely what it's meant to be read as. So always keeping a flexibility within yourself allows the best message to come through, and just something to think about. So this is technically an after card, the moment after, but my spirit guide actually says it's before in this particular case. So in this instance, this individual is going to go on a trip. They're going to go out, they're going to go travel, they're going to go do their thing. But if you notice all of these cups, they're sort of loading up, if you will. I would personally, please sound off in the comments below, I would never do this as somebody who has to go to the bathroom quite often. I would never want to drink more liquid before I'm going to go for a hike. Please let me know what your status is in the comments below. So this individual is basically preparing in the sense of that they're getting everything they need before they go out. But again, we go back to that idea of water. It's not the idea of what you need on a practical level, like your supplies if you're going to go out for traveling. But again, that idea of knowledge. But again, it's not just knowledge as in like with the sword, like blatant facts. It's like emotional connections. Like, have you ever watched a video of another part of the world and you just suddenly feel like you're transported to what they feel, what they're connected with? Because remember, wherever we're at in the world, and I don't just mean in other countries, I'm referring to like, so let's say you live in wherever you live individually, another part of where you live, like, so example, like let's choose the United States. You know, California is going to be a different experience than New York City. These are going to be different perspectives these people are going to hold in their everyday life, because their daily life is going to be different, especially based on their environment as well, affecting that. So sometimes you watch a video and there's a part of you that gets transported and you can just like see their lives and decision making through their environment affecting that, and you're like, wow, and you're like, it's like fun to connect to it and you can feel it emotionally type of thing. This is actually another form of like psychic perception, just fun fact. But anyways, this is you loving that. There's both this inner part of you, again, we talk about the inner self and what brings it joy. There's a part of you that just, first of all, wants to go on an adventure. And I did clarify, I said, oh, do you mean like full-on travel? And my spirit guide was like, just adventure, as in like, it can include you full-on traveling if you want to like get a trip together and plan that. But you do love the act of being like, I'm going to go do something. I'm going to travel outside my normal situation. It could be down the street. It could be, you know, like a park. It doesn't have to be to the extreme. But whatever it may be, there's not only the love for that, but it's the preparation beforehand that is just a real fun thing for you that makes you enjoy the trip better. So for example, let's say you're going to go to a different country. There's a part of you that really loves not only initially the research facts of like, what are the regular, like what would be the polite like mannerisms of interacting with people, what's the cordial thing to do or things to know, that type of thing, so that you can like integrate more seamlessly amongst everybody else. But in addition to that, there is also the fun of being like, ooh, what kind of food, you know, do they have? What kind of, fun, like patterns or outfits or dresses or structures or architectures or beliefs, like what's going on? How fun is that? But there's a part of you that can really connect to and interact beyond that and get transported there in thinking about how that's different than what you think, how you like that, how that benefits you in thinking in that different kind of way. It's like you're almost pre-traveling there emotionally, psychically, and consciously before you've even gotten there. So there's just this fun aspect of prepping before you're even there that makes you enjoy the actual experience, not only because it's like you're already traveling before you've traveled, but in addition to that concept, when you go to travel, it's like a deeper love. It's very comparable to when, like, let's say somebody's really excited about a movie coming out. And again, they do all the research about the background characters, whatever. When something happens in the movie or TV show or whatever, and they're like, oh, I know what that is. Your average person's just like, cool, there's that object. I don't care about that object or that little gesture that person did. What does that mean? Oh, that's cool. You've looked into it and understand the gravity of what that ultimately means for the plot or the individual characters. So there's this deeper fun and excitement about the whole thing, because it's like you got to watch the movie or show longer than the time it actually airs for. You got even more fun because you started that research and fun before you've even enjoyed it. And then there's a during effect and after effect that lasts longer for you because of what you started in pretext. So again, the main thing we're talking about inner joy here is, yes, you love to go and experience new adventures, but it's the preparation before the adventures. Again, not preparation on a practical level. We're talking about a knowledgeable, connected, emotional, cosmic, intellectual understanding level that you just thrive off of. That is just so fun for you. I'd actually highly recommend, literally today, think of a fun place you'd like to travel. And even if you're like, well, I don't have the money yet, or I'm not sure, don't worry, you'll manifest that. We want you to actually just focus on the joy of what could be and all the potential. And also, don't underestimate wherever you live in your individual country. Again, no matter the place, there's just such a difference in the other side of that individual place that you live. Don't underestimate what it could be like 2 hours from where you live, type of thing, and seeing what that's like over there. There's always a sub sort of personalities and how people live their life everywhere, literally everywhere in the entire world. So just something fun to think about when we talk about you not needing to go very far and get even more out of it than you thought of before. So anyways, as we just talked about, very clear vibe about you, and I just love your vibe. I think you're really fun. I love your beautiful mix between wanting to interact with people, but be like, I need some time to recharge. I love your proactive experimentation. I can totally relate to this. I love the way prepping isn't out of stress for you, but out of enjoyment. I love that it feels very smooth and cool of you to be someone that's like, I don't really need to manage all the I want everything, but I don't need to manage it. I don't need to be aware of it every second. If something's wrong, I'll take care of it, but really, I just get to be me, and then everything benefits around me. But also, I really do want it all. I want money, I want good relationships, so on and so forth. So, very cool, confident, interesting. You're definitely a unique person, and I love it. So please let me know what you think in the comments below. I would love to know. Also, please leave this video a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my videos. It also helps me out a lot, and I deeply appreciate it. Have a lovely day. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3, let's find out what brings your inner self the most joy by looking at the cards. We have the Star card upright. We have the Four of Cups in reverse. The Knight of Pentacles in reverse. The King of Swords in reverse. The Lover's card upright. This is a very interesting set of cards. And the Knight of Cups in reverse. Wow, this is a very... Let's just say this is not what I anticipated. And what I mean by anticipation is depending on whatever questions we're diving into with the reading, it's not surprising certain subjects that we go down. I'm definitely surprised with where we're going down with this. So just give me one moment to look at the details of these cards and consult my spirit guides. That's so funny because we just said right now that I'm surprised by some of the things we're talking about. There's definitely an unconventional nature to just you and the way you do things in a way where you naturally thrive. And I love that correlation of the surprising concepts and the unconventional nature showing up. I love the pairing of the two, but let's get into this. So first we're going to start with the star card, and going back to that unconventional idea, you're going to see that pop up in a really beautiful celebratory way initially here. So I love how my spirit guide puts this, because sometimes spirit guides, well, always, will approach the same subject that you might get, talk about with a friend or something. And they might say the same thing. You've heard it before, but the way they put it, it just, you connect with it differently. You're like, oh, I really can understand what you mean when you say, don't worry about that, or that's just different, or whatever like that. In this particular instance, my spirit guide sort of told me a story. They said, see this crane over here? I think the term is herring. Please let me know in the comments below, but we're going to just say crane for the sake of easiness of speaking. This crane over here is flying, doing its thing, and we're trying to set the scene. It's nighttime. This individual is, cleaning up, and this crane's going, what on earth are they doing? Because remember, when the crane, cleans its feathers, it probably picks, because I'm not an expert on birds, it probably picks up some water in its beak and then kind of fiddles it around its feathers, or maybe it doesn't even involve water. And so to them, this is a very foreign concept of what's going on. They're so almost like, what are they doing? Why would they do it that way kind of thing? And just they cannot relate because they are a totally different set of species. So that makes sense why they just couldn't relate. And they have their own way about going things. And then the next thing that's also happening simultaneously for them is they're watching again this human and they're thinking, it's nighttime. I'm out here trying to find a place where I can relax and go to bed. What are they doing? And my spirit guide said that there is a way you're going to go about things that other people just can't relate. And there's going to be a time period that you're going to want to approach things that, again, other people can't relate. Let me just verify one thing when I asked time period with my spirit guides. Okay, I was correct. My spirit guide, I was asking, is it just purely like, sometimes people are night owls and like literally at 2 in the morning, they'll get their creative inspiration and that's when they're working compared to other people. And I said, is it that, or is it when you might approach things at different age ranges than what is societally like the norm? Or is it both? And my spirit guide said it's everything, as in everything time period for you is going to be different than everyone else. Again, you might randomly get inspiration while everyone else is going to bed. That's when you start working. Maybe some people approach things in your 20s and you want to explore something in your 40s and you do everything in reverse. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to go about doing things in the way you want to go doing about things, which is really fun. And basically my spirit guide was like, do that. They're different than you. They're totally different species. Society is a different group of individuals that are functioning the way they're naturally meant to function. But this is how you go about doing things. Follow that instinct that is going to be you're not going to find a lot of others that are like, yeah, me too. And I mean, you probably will. I mean, like there's enough of us on this planet that there's going to be some relatability. But the main thing is that if you ever feel people are like, when people give that silly, unsolicited, well, I couldn't do that. And you're like, that's great. No one asked. You know what I mean? It's very much that flavor, which I love. So again, it's very simple. It's just this idea that you're going to do things way other people don't, but especially when we talk about time periods, both in day and lifetime, do it. Follow your heart. That works for you. That is your normal. That is, follow it. It makes you happy to be that, like whatever your norm is, as we just spoke about, following it in that way and knowing that you're different than other people and that kind of thing just makes you really happy. You're like, man, this just felt right. I know I'm supposed to do this in my 20s. I didn't feel ready. I'm ready in my 30s, and I'm really happy I'm getting to explore this. I feel no guilt about it, and that's something that we're going to actually repeat with concept going forward. You'll notice that concept of lack of guilt continues very commonly as we read into this. Then our next one is Four of Cups. Now this one's really great because this is an awesome example I talk about in my tarot course when we always are talking about the idea of looking for more subtext. So this is being read in reverse through its imagery, not its meaning. In this particular instance, well, it's a little bit of meaning if you want to put it that way, but normally this card references this idea of somebody who's become dispassionate, bored, apathetic, things like that. Nothing's quite getting them pumped about life. And on one hand, the fact that we're talking about the reverse, I'm happy to say, of talking about you getting interested. But the fact that it brings up boredom at all is in itself a part of the subject at hand when we talk about greater subtext. And in this particular instance, it talks about this idea that for boredom to be brought up, you definitely like to do things that you like doing. You want to feel pumped about it. It's not good enough that you just have to get it done. It feels extra exciting for you if you feel pumped to do something at a different time other people don't. A very good example of this is like, please again, let me know in the comments below. Sometimes, this is something I personally have experienced. You just wake up randomly and you wake up really early and there's no reason, way before your alarm, and it's like 5 in the morning. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to go for a bike ride. And there's just no one out. And it feels so magical. You feel like you're seeing the world in a totally different way. The streets are empty. The glow of that morning light. If photographers can remind me, there's a word for it. Is it lavender hour if it's also the morning? And you're just in that magical sphere and thriving because you're at the right place, right time for you and what is your norm and what you want to do. But simultaneously, you're also feeling the magic of doing something when other people aren't. You're getting to see a snippet of the world other people don't normally see. And so on one hand, there's this part of you that finds you like we going back to what we talked about, you like to do things when you want to do them. You want to be excited about them. But also there's this idea that when you get bored or disinterested and you're not quite sure what to do next, and it's just your simple, Tuesday afternoon, no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to watch a movie. No, I don't want to work on that project. What do? There is this complete joy and fun in refilling your cup. And again, the unconventional manner. I'm getting like a really strong visual example of this where it's as simple as you, let's say you're fiddling with some pencils or something on your desk and there's some erasers, and before you know it, you have created a whole game for yourself or a mini catapult, or you're making your erasers individual personalities and drawing little faces on them. Again, please sound off in the comments below. I knew so many people in my lifetime that loved playing with erasers and giving them whole personalities and stuff like that, which I think it's a really fun thing that people love to do. But the point is, there's this flow that you love in your inner self. It's very much like you tapping into your creativity and you're excited that you're doing it and you love that you thought of something no one else was thinking in that moment type of thing. But you getting out of the boredom, those little moments where they don't really have any tie to importance or getting things done, because again, a lot of people measure their life of what am I doing next? What's the value to myself? What's the value to my friends and family? What's my career? What's this? It's this big statement. There's this absolute joy for you in your inner self when you're coming out of a boredom state. Not only that you're no longer bored and you're excited about something, but that you're like, I'm sitting here, it's 3 in the morning and I'm making an entire civilization game, whatever, out of my office supplies. That type of thing. It's about following it. You love feeling that intuition that you got naturally pulled to something. You love that you created something out of nothing. You love that that something you created doesn't really relate to anything. It is because it is. And you just love going into anything that, when we not just talk about that subject, we're talking on a grander scale, that you like to be like, I'm exactly where I want to be. This is fun. I'm having a good time. I like this. And again, you don't really care if that fun time is on a big scale, small scale, what it relates to the bigger picture. It can, but you just love having a good time and being interested. But everything else we just described is a part of that greater context. Now, these two are interesting. The Knight of Pentacles is being read both individually, but it's also being related to the King of Swords. And this one, I had to ask my spirit guide a couple times, like, am I hearing you correctly? Because this is just so not something I normally hear in the cards, but I love that. So in the Knight of Pentacles, it does talk about the joy that you have for things taking longer. And initially I was like, again, am I hearing you correctly? Because most people don't love things to take a while. And even energetically from you, I did not get a vibe that you love if, let's say you're trying to accomplish a goal, you're moving towards like graduating, getting some sort of degree. You don't love that it's taking forever. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I can feel that. And so I was like, huh? I was like, what? Am I hearing you correctly? I'm energetically feeling not that way. And my spirit guide was like, they really like that as they're sort of enjoying the journey, the aspect of it all coming together, it's like when that's a good time, they want that experience to last. So it's like, yes, it's fun to get to the destination, but if you are enjoying the act of getting to the destination, you don't mind it taking longer. It's not that you want it to take longer. It's like you want to reap as much joy and happiness out of the building up to it, which I thought was really fun and interesting and makes a lot of sense and makes you have a moment of slowing down, because sometimes people will be like, slow down, enjoy the journey. And you're kind of like, that's great. I want it to happen now. I need this to happen now for this. And it doesn't like sort of resonate with us, if you will. In this particular instance, it's like, think of it as you're reaping more joy out of the thing you're already trying to achieve. And so it's not about saying slow down. It's about saying, I'm taking more time to have even more enjoyment. I'm squeezing out the most amount of fun in this activity and experience, which is really fun and beautiful. So sorry about that interruption. Going back to what we were just saying, the Knight of Pentacles talks about this concept of the greater good. And that's something that you really do love. You love that in the end, when a concept comes together, you realize it wasn't a waste of time. You realize that something that might have felt like a hindrance back then actually totally added up to something more positive later, which is really, I mean, who can't relate to that? But there's like a deep sense of satisfaction that like it was worth it. But that idea as a whole that gets brought to like other aspects of your life that makes you really like happy and you thrive on is really interesting where it interacts with here. In the King of Swords in reverse, my spirit guide specifically talked about this concept of jealousy leading you to be more open to trying new things and it being a positive thing. And I was like, hold on, back up. Am I hearing you correctly? And I was, and I love this. They said, for you, when you're feeling like, man, I wish I had what they had. Man, that's so lucky for them that got to work out. Oh, I wish I was more like that. That's actually a really positive thing in your area of department. What ends up happening is that jealousy motivates you, like this individual over here, being more open to receiving the sword, which is representation of knowledge, ideas, concepts, I mean, anything. It is forcing your hand to be open in a way that it wouldn't normally, which makes me wonder subtext-wise. Let me just ask something with my spirit guide. My spirit guide's like, keep going, as in like, let's keep chatting. It kind of makes sense to me because you have such a clear sense of who you are and you're sort of intuitively following patterns or routes or activities or timing of when to do activities that is different than other people. So you're definitely following this instinct of, if it feels nice or I like it or it makes me happy, then I do it. So if you don't feel that way, then you don't. But there can be a level of then not trying something that later you look at everyone else and you're like, I wish I did that. But because, again, you were only following your instinct, and maybe the thing that prevented you from trying that thing was because not of the activity itself, but maybe you didn't like the other people in the activity. So you didn't want to try the activity because you're like, I don't want to be like those other people. And in reality, you would love the activity, and that's okay that you didn't like the people, but you would like the activity. So when you feel that sense of like frustration, and jealousy often isn't a very fun emotion to experience. It definitely brings people down, and it doesn't make us feel like our best selves. And sometimes when we don't feel like our best selves or have these type of emotions, we think it's bad. We think, I'm not a good person, what's wrong with me? We just don't feel like good people. And there's a lot of weight and animosity towards just feeling an emotion that's out of the norm and maybe doesn't make us feel like ourselves, because jealousy often reflects an idea of lacking or without. But again, it's the tension we put on the emotion rather than even the emotion itself that is more the intensity that is the actual issue. Well, the expectation we put on it rather than its individual purpose. And it does have a purpose in your life. Not only does it make you happy to be more open to trying things you're normally closed off on, because we are complimenting that you have a great intuition when it comes to following what makes you happy and to keep following that and how normal that is for you. But there are times when you can't solely trust on that to be your inner compass. And the beautiful thing is, these emotions that might be uncomfortable or you might even put weight on in a negative way are actually in fact helping you. And then this again talks about the inner happiness. There's absolute joy for you when you end up, you end up getting the activity done, or you try out the new thing or whatever that may be. Again, back to the concept of where it leads. And you look back and you're like, wow, go figure, that part of myself I tried to shut out or think wasn't good enough or judge myself for was actually perfectly navigating me where I needed to be. That means at no time in my life was I bad or not good enough or something was wrong with me. These are just like common terminology a lot of people use. I, in fact, at all times was absolutely in sync and perfect with myself. That, in fact, what might be seen as a negative thing is, in fact, a different way of approaching things, again, not unlike the way you normally approach things, and ultimately led you to being the best version you can be. But we sometimes think when we are trying to be the best version we are, it only looks one way. And yet again, you approach things in a different way, and it was meant to be, and it was a beautiful thing. And maybe in time, when you are at that, because often it's easier to look back once you've been through it, you rewrite the way you view your past self. And therefore, remember, often the way we react to things now is influenced heavily by whatever is in the past, especially on our level of how much we healed that. Imagine rewriting the way you saw the way yourself back then, which then by default rewrites who you are now. I think that's a really beautiful thing. So I love this because there's a deep sense of happiness for your inner self to connect to that. Relieve yourself of any pressure you put on yourself, and maybe going forward looking into that when you're interacting with things and you're not feeling your best. Sometimes it's navigating you to where you should focus on what brings you joy and being sort of out of societal norms and not having it relate to anything and being goofy and fun the way you go about approaching things. But sometimes it's about letting something guide you in a way that you wouldn't normally think would be the thing guiding you. You don't realize it's the light and candle taking you through the cave. So I love that. I think that's really beautiful. Now going forward, these are actually both heavily focused on the idea of romanticness and affection. Over here in the Knight of Cups, it's more just like general sense of connection with anybody. It can be more of a relationship rather than like a friendship, but this is more like a wider spectrum compared to this one. So over in this card, underneath here, there is a woman and she is pulling away. She sort of is like, I do not want to interact with you. And if we look over here, her sort of behind her is this tree. It's very fruitful. She's got everything she basically needs. Think of it as something she created from her general like interacting with it, the way she saw things. She didn't get in the way, and it's really like bloomed and been the best version of, and it's sort of like a reflection of who she is as an individual. You can also think of it as like a different way of people describing your inner light type of thing, but ironically we're actually talking about that. We're talking about your inner being. And then over here there's an individual, there's a man, and he's reaching down trying to be like, hey, I'd like to interact with you. And behind him is this entire tree just like on fire, as in he made some choices that didn't cultivate him his own representative, beautiful tree. And he kind of was in some way self-sabotaging and made poor decisions that maybe quelched out his own individual light. Now what's going on here is and I was talking quite in depth to get details with my spirit guide. They said that the individual that is moving towards this other individual is not consciously thinking, I don't have my tree, I want their tree. I've destroyed what I've already created. Look at what they made. I could have a piece of that. They're not thinking that at all. They're really consciously being like, oh, I like you. What's wrong? Do you want to interact? Except you, and this is you over here, this is you as an individual, you're pulling away because you can see the subtext behind them as an individual as well as you as an individual. You're seeing how they made mistakes and they're maybe not in a place in their life right now where they can really offer as much, as well as they, due to the state of their tree, it might actually negatively affect yours, and you don't want that. But also, and this is when we talk about back to the main concept of this reading, which is the inner joy part, there's a part of you that finds happiness in both being able to see the truth in that way in other, again, when you're making these type of specific connections with other individuals, you like being able to see that underneath it all, no matter how they express themselves, you can see the status of what they have cultivated for themselves underneath it all. Are they going to help you, or you're going to enjoy what they naturally are offering and enjoy being in their environment, or are they going to try to, whether it be intentional or unintentional, burn down or affect negatively what you have cultivated? But the other part of you is you like being able to see this, and there's like a happiness in being like, I was right kind of thing. But there's also and this is just some food for thought, you don't need to go through it to learn that. You can trust yourself. And I'm not implying that you have or you naturally do. My spirit guide's like giving me an expression right now. I'm just gonna keep going when they're giving me a face. Am I understanding you correctly? My spirit guide's like, you're understanding me perfectly. Okay, I'm gonna just keep going forward. But it's this idea that there is a deep happiness in you when you make this decision where you're like, hey, I'm gonna have to pull back. That's really nice. You want to interact and build a connection with me. I can see how great my situation is. I think that I'm going to make the right decision and keep involving myself with people that can add to it, or I can share it with them, and I can see that you could affect it, and I'm going to successfully prevent you from affecting it by not going deeper into this exchange and connection and overall interaction. And I love this. It shows your intuition, it shows your intelligence, but it also shows there's a part of you that's either exercising it now or is about to exercise. You have learned that you don't need to prove to yourself your intuition is correct by letting them affect you and your situation of what you've cultivated, and then looking back and be like, I was right. I knew I was right. You're saving yourself the entire grief of being like, yeah, I just love that my situation I've created for myself keeps doing great and therefore keeps blooming and keeps being even better because I keep making choices to interact with individuals who only add to that. And I make smart choices, and I instinctively trust my intuition to just keep going away from people I don't feel that it's going to add to that. And so I love that for you. It says a lot about you, but it shows the inner strength that you've built with yourself, like a better trusting with yourself. But again, it's that deep satisfaction of like, look how great I'm doing, and look at how great I can keep doing, which is beautiful. Again, it's not a negative response towards general interactions or with everybody. It's just this general concept of when you sense it's not the right fit for the reasons we've spoke about just a moment ago, you're happy that you didn't put yourself in a position. And you're happier that you're not constantly putting yourself in a position in order to then learn that information. Now, going forward, that concept sort of extends when we have over here in the Knight of Cups, just the general type of interaction. Over here in the Knight of Cups, and this is a really interesting reversal because if you were familiar with reading these cards, usually reversal means like the opposite, or concepts like if it's exterior, it's inner, that type of thing. This one's really interesting. It's the subtext that's more deeper rather than opposing. So in this particular instance, this is supposed to represent you, and the cup is like however you feel. It could be straightforwardly like you being like, I'm so into you, but it could also be like even just with friendships where you're like, I care about you, I'm letting you know. Anything where you're expressing, it can be physical, whatever it is, but it's a general sentiment and message, and you're really putting it out there that you care about another individual and you feel for them in that type of way. And this is you handing it to the knight. Now, this individual is down to accept what you have to offer, but the level of sincerity that he is going to process it with really is a different scale than when it's reversed. And as you remember, this was reversed. We are simply putting it upright to talk about it. We're going to talk about it in reversed in 1 second. And we're not talking about a Knight of Wands situation where, well, I would argue Knight of Wands are sincere about their interactions with individuals and don't mean to hurt people. So maybe that's not a good example. But in the Knight of Cups, it's not that when I say level of sincerity, I don't mean because this person is consciously being like, I'm going to take whatever they have to offer me, and I know I'm not going to give anything back. It's more like, imagine a random person was like, here you go, and you're like, oh, thank you, but you need time to evaluate being like, oh, what do I think about this individual? With what they have to offer, do I like this? Do I want to go further? They haven't had time to like process it, right? So when we're talking about level of sincerity or level of connection back, that's still sort of up in the air when the card is upright. In reverse, and this goes back to the main question at hand of what brings you the most joy, is there's this deep sense of happiness where you love feeling like that certainty gets brought back to you, that you've made the right decision giving it, in order, well, not in order to, but you want to have the result back of someone being very clearly like, I love that you gave this to me. I'm going to give some of my cup and emotions back. I love this. I am returning what you're offering. And you love being able to, with certainty, give that knowing you're giving that back. Now, I'm not saying there's like a full closed offness of like, you won't give it unless it gets back. But you don't exactly love if you're constantly expressing this with tons of people that aren't at a point where they can receive it or properly give that sort of type of energy back. But you love, and it brings you such happiness when you're like, I can feel we've got a great friendship, or maybe even something blooming romantic, and you can feel this sense of like, oh, they really liked that I did that. And then they even let you know, and they're like, wow, no one's ever made me feel that special, or like, I care about you too. And you love that type of connection. You love giving it, and you love receiving it. But something that really stands out here is you love knowing that as you're giving it, and the main focus is that you are expressing it, there's this sense of safety and happiness and excitement, knowing with confidence, not that your expectation is to receive it back. Again, it's not your holding expectation for it. It's this general sense of like, yeah, I feel safe enough that even if they didn't say anything, like, I know we've got that cool vibe going on, but ultimately they do end up saying something and returning it back. So really beautiful. Lots of very strong, intense energy. Like, you've got to be a very strong individual to go against the grain and definitely do things your own way, but you're definitely guided by this sense of like fun. What's a good time? What's make you happy? What's the point of things if you're not feeling excited about it? And generally, it's this idea of like, keep following that. That is your norm. Let that be your constant guiding factor, and so on and so forth. So I love this for you. It's very cool. I really would love to know what you think in the comments below. I'm excited if I get an unconventional answer. Either way, please leave this video a like, a subscribe, hit that notification bell because it helps out my channel like you would not believe. I am wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and let's get ready for our final group. Group number 4. Group number 4. Let's find out what brings your inner self the most joy by looking at the cards. We have the Empress card upright. The Queen of Wands upright. That already is saying something to me. The Queen of Pentacles in reverse. The Emperor upright. and a King and Queen of Cups in reverse. This is like, I'm being very serious. I have never had a card reading where every single card is about some sort of authoritative figure, commander, leader. This says a lot about you. Like, you have definitely got a very specific vibe going on. I love it. It is wonderfully expansive, and I'm just very excited to get into all the details of this. So just give me one moment to do that and to consult my spirit guides. Look at that, every single one. Wow. Wow, this is, okay, you really are full of surprises. There's definitely a clear energy that you will see as we go into details here. But this, like, what it is just still has tons of twists and turns. And I love it, and I am very excited to get into this reading. You'll definitely notice a common motif of us talking about this concept of, like, I won't use the term leadership often, but you definitely like to be in control. No, that's not even the thing. You'll see as we get into it. I wouldn't even say those are the defining factors at all. Give me 1 second to find my wording as we get into this. So, this is what I mean by an interesting aspect here. So here we have two ladies who are the rulers of their courts, so to speak. In the Queen of Wands, we have one style of ruling. She's, the leader of her kingdom. Queen of Wands has the experience. She's got the energy. She is extremely magnetic. People just love her. Interesting note here. So is the Empress. Very magnetic, very likable. People are beings, everything is just drawn to her. Lots of abundance in both of them. But the Queen of Wands, there is more of a practical element. She is very conscientious of rules she needs to put in place in order for everything to run correctly. This is very much you running the domain of your life, let alone like other people type of scenario. This is more you being aware of like, okay, what do I got to do on a logical, practical, physical world element in order to get certain things accomplished, in order for everything to run smoothly, what works best for, you and your schedule, potentially other people, that type of thing. But then over here, Empress has got a totally different vibe. She is definitely more hands-off, but with confidence. There's not ignorance behind her hands-off level of ruling. She is somebody who has such a level of abundance that when she takes a single step forward, this is the way I always explain it, is that a bunch of flowers grow from underneath her feet. Like, she barely has to do anything, and there will just be a level of thriving happening. It's a huge compliment to be associated with the Empress card. It's a very underrated manifestation card, in my opinion. But something important about her is because her domain is like nature and animals and things like that, nature knows what it's doing. It knows when to naturally get rid of areas, where to overgrow, what plant life should exist, shouldn't exist, so on and so forth. Like it just basically rules itself. So there's a level of her kingdom being so well functioning in a way that you don't need to worry about, and she's aware of that she just sort of sits back and lets it exist and is a part of it, because obviously she's always naturally creating and attracting it to her. But as you can tell, totally different elements, both very much like you definitely, I'm definitely getting a read. Let me just double check something. My spirit guide's like being like, you're definitely right, shaking their head, yes. My spirit guide's like, I am. And there's definitely a very strong quality to you, a very likability factor. Keep that in mind too. This is like a side note. People who tend to have this energy can, a lot of people can get jealous of it because they, of course, want it themselves. And this is something just naturally exudes from you. So if you ever deal with people that sometimes are like hostile for no reason, or you're like, what's their problem? Or like, why were they so mean or a bully to me. They just want what you naturally have. Don't let other people like affect your light and your magnetic quality. But this quality literally attracts more. It attracts more good stuff, attracts more people liking you. There's not a lot of effort on either part to have people enjoy you and have abundance around you when you're just naturally vibing and enjoying yourself. But my spirit guide said that true happiness, or well, I don't want to say, yeah, like joy, more joy, for you is this natural ebb and flow between these two parts of yourself. And that going in one direction solely is going to make you feel off and not pumped. Basically, at times you're going to want to be very clear cut about how you things want ordered and what you organizationally need in order to accomplish it. But sometimes you're going to need to sort of go out of that sort of schedule and the way you approach things and just let things exist, but with a level of confidence that things work naturally for you. You can think about how you created such a well-oiled machine. It makes sense that it would naturally run on its own sometimes, but the Empress isn't thinking that she created nature. She's just a part of it. There's a certain element of her knowing like, oh my gosh, it's nature. It's all going to work out. It's like, it's your life. Of course, it's all going to work out. Things always work out for you, that type of thing. So it's that going between the two for you when it comes to you existing in your life and accomplishing your goals and anything and bouncing between the two of being more involved and then hands off with confidence that makes you just feel so happy because these parts are both a part of who you are. Now going forward, we have the Queen of Pentacles. This one made me laugh a little bit. I loved this because over here, if you look at the back of her stone, she is an individual who is, very giving. This is sort of a homage to her past as a queen. Everyone basically fell in love with her because she had a lot of money and she gave a lot of it away. And there's a certain happiness to her. She's like, wow, look at all that I did. I really helped out the kingdom and I'm really happy with what I did in my life and that's how I led it. But if you notice, there's no kingdom left anymore. She's sitting all alone on the throne. It's like maybe they didn't need her anymore, or I kind of get more of a vibe, to be honest with you, that she kind of gave her kingdom away, so to speak. She gave it all away, but she's happy that she did it. She feels like it was the best decision possible. And as you can see, there's greenery and stuff. It was a positive thing overall. But essentially, she's not left at the end of her life with anything she created. Now, this is the part why I'm saying it's so funny, and I was like laughing up a little bit of a storm. My spirit guide was like, but it's in reverse, so that's the opposite for them. There is a part of you that definitely, now when we have a queen, this is like the ultimate compliment for not only like artisans, but like an artisan who in the long term is like, is my business going to be successful? It's like, oh yeah, because the Queen of Pentacles is somebody who is very capable, and she just always has financial success because she's knows how to create things. So whenever she needs more money, she can just create more things. She can create more opportunities. She can create more tangible, like again, products or whatever. She can do anything. She's an endless supply of capabilities and knowledge in that way because she literally can create it. And there's sort of she can depend on herself and a lot of trust, which is really beautiful. Now, with it being in reverse, after everything I said, what it's focusing on is like, you don't really want to have to give yourself away. You don't want to have to give away everything that you have in order for to rule your sort of domain. And again, we're referring to it as not you having order over people, but more just like, in everybody's individual reality, they function in a certain way with everybody else. For you, it's like you're the leader of your life. People often go to you to know what you have to say and do and that kind of thing. You feel like there's a certain level of like control and awareness you have. Very similar to somebody who would rule a queen, a king, an emperor, that type of concept. Energetically when you're approaching it. You don't want to have to give everything away. You're down to share your knowledge. Like you're happy to do that and like people want to hear what you have to say. But what makes you more happy is that in the long term, you didn't do that. You didn't give it all away. That there is something left at the end of your life. In fact, my spirit guide said that you want up to the end of, like, at the very end of your life, you are constantly making something, benefiting from it financially, from appraisal, whatever. In some way, you are constantly in creation, getting to see what you've created and getting the benefits of in the moment still continuing that rhythm. There's not really a feeling of like wanting to create and then at some time hoard and then, move on. You want to, at the very end, be in the cycle of creation, letting people know you have it, but you don't want to just simply be like, well, that's okay that, there's nothing left. That's not your vibe. That's not your idea. There's a joy of knowing when to say, I'm happy to share with you how to do it, but I'm not giving you everything away. There's a sense of boundaries being put there. There's a confidence of who you are and what you created. You do like to share it, but it makes you feel good to know there's a point to say no in. And there is a joy for you ultimately to look at everything that you've made and done and to keep adding to it and be in that headspace. It's very much that vibe of like, when sometimes when you start a new like project or idea or job or whatever, and there's this newness to it, it feels like you have all the options in the world and there's always something else to do. And you might be doing the same concept, a couple years from now, but there's something about it that's not special anymore. It doesn't feel like there's all the options. It doesn't feel like the world's your oyster. And you might still be, have all the options and still have things ahead of you, but it just doesn't feel like that. You want that feeling continuously going forward at all times, that sense of like, at any point, I like the Queen of Pentacles, I could make something. At any point, I could use my knowledge and again, not to be redundant, make some sort of opportunity or idea. It doesn't always have to, Queen of Pentacles doesn't always have to refer to solely physical, tangible things. And you want that sense of like newness and that first excitement of when you showed everyone your ideas. You constantly want people to be like, wow, new idea, wow. And you want to put that out there and have this be a very continuous, happy cycle of confidence and leadership in your life and newness always sort of spewing out, which is really beautiful. Now going forward, we have the Emperor here, and this is a super fun Emperor. Normally the Emperor is sitting. He is very stagnant as a person. He means well. He can be very misunderstood because there's a sense of coldness sometimes behind him. The reason why we talk about there being a coldness here is because he is truly very serious. If we want to think about scaling, again, I am not an expert. I'm going to just use this terminology in the way that I mean it to. I'm not saying this is facts of how that terminology is actually being used. But think of a king and queen as just a company, like a smaller country or just like a country. And think of an emperor as like a huge, like sets multiple countries, huge country, something big. Think of it as like a much grander scale. More people, more problems, so on and so forth. So he's got to be really careful about his decision making. He is thinking about the bigger picture on a very large scale all the time. And he's aware that he can't just simply make one decision for one section of that kingdom, or in your aspect, one section of your life or one person, because he's got to be thinking about, well, how is that going to affect other things? So he's often making decisions that sometimes people don't, maybe, I don't want to say don't understand, but he might not make the initial decision, like the forward front decision, but he's thinking of what's the bigger thing that's going to treat many problems at once, or maybe this, I don't need to solve this thing individually, but see how I can reverse in the bigger picture of the ruling type of idea. But he's also someone, when we think of the Emperor, he's a great foundation card. That's a big thing he represents. He's thinking about, if I make a really solid foundation, both of the kingdom itself, how it rules, how it functions, the economics, everything like that, in the long term, as we build, his lineage, but more importantly, for me, the Emperor does not really worry about his lineage as in about him solely for ego. He's in the lineage of the lifetime of everyone involved. So I want to be clear about this. But there's a sense of like, when I build upon this foundation, it's super solid. And he's aware other people might just be like, well, just make this decision because I want it to be done and this is what I want. He's thinking about, I see what you're saying, but you don't understand the importance on the foundation. I do. And I know that because I'm making the right choices to build this so solidly, in the long term, you're going to thank me, because when something else pops up, you're going to be able to rely on this, and so on and so forth. So he normally is a pretty stagnant guy because he's thinking about foundations, how everything affects stuff. But in this particular case, we have a different emperor. And this is when we go back to the main question at hand, is your inner joy. What brings your inner self the most joy. So he's made his decision and he's ready. He's like, I thought about it. I know what to do. It's going to benefit the foundation. It's going to benefit the bigger picture. I'm ready to put it into action. And he's excited. He's been sitting, and I say this joke facetiously because the emperor's usually always sitting. He's been sitting a while, as in metaphorically through the tarot cards. And he's ready to put it into action. This is something you love. You love that when you go to put something into action, and with it being the emperor, it's more of like a more serious level, like you're going to go work on this project that's going to become a bigger idea. You're going to go make a decision via like what to do for your career, or how you're going to handle something within your career, anything, whatever that may be. There is this absolute joy that once you are enacting that decision and you're getting the joy of being involved and making it happen, you love that you absolutely know that it was the right one. You love that, and then we're not talking about someone like being so lost in the decision making, they're kind of taking too long to make the decision. We're not talking about that. It's that you've thoroughly thought it out, and there's this deep sense of confidence that not only was it the right decision, and again, we're not talking about two swords of being like, should I do this? Should I do that? You know that the decision you've made going forward there's this after euphoria effect because you're feeling the lineage of what it's created in your decision. You love that it's not only benefiting now, whatever you're choosing, but it's going to in the long term benefit you. That it's building to something that will then help other things build off of it. So you're really fathoming psychically the bigger effect of the single thing. You like then enacting it, but you like when you go to enact proactively whatever the decision you've made and you're making it happen and come to life. You love that you've thought about it, there's confidence behind it, and you love that you're coming from a state of not right and wrong decision, but something that's being thought of from that grander scale. Now going forward, this, remember when I said twists and turns with you? I love it. Again, this is very surprising because these cards are ultimately still, like the other cards, complimenting you in a very mastery kind of way, especially with kings. But I personally like to read my cards where kings and queens talk about mastery, because this king talks about a different aspect of emotional things than queens. So I'm just saying that when it comes to something like a king and queen, they tend to be masters of their suits. They're very aware of whatever that individual subject is. But despite you being a mastery, it's like you're too smart. And there's a part of you that, and this is where it gets really interesting. It's actually funny. I had within this video, I had a different group reading who also had a similar surprising fun reading. Some people might say what I'm about to express as self-sabotaging. That's definitely not what's happening here. There is more of this perspective you're taking on where you want things to feel fun and new. You want that vibe and sensation of, again, we talk about over here in the Queen of Pentacles, it feels fresh. It's the first time. But you do also simultaneously want to be aware and knowledgeable. It's like you want both. You want to already be there, but you want it to be new. But in the king and queens over here specifically, there's this element of you wanting to sort of pull back some of your knowledge and awareness just for the joy of like having things be fresh. You do know you are capable, but you don't want to, just for the fun of the experience. But it's definitely not what I would normally anticipate. So think about this when it comes to these interactions going forward. In the Queen of Cups in reverse, this specifically talks about the idea of being emotionally balanced. And, well, you don't really want that. This is what I mean by twists and turns. In the Queen of Cups upright, this dolphin is handing her like water scepter to sort of control the oceans. Traditionally, the Queen of Cups is known for her balance in emotions because she rides the ups and the downs beautifully. She's not unaware that one will go away or be not there. She's very loving and accepting of all her emotional expression, and she's down for either side of it, but neither is so extreme, because when she's not feeling great, she doesn't feel like it's the end of the world because she knows it will have an end point. And when she feels really good, she's not concerned it will go away because she knows ultimately it will come back. But in this particular case, my spirit guide was describing that she's working for the sea, because when she controls the oceans, this is going to benefit the dolphin. And the sea is working for her, as in the emotions are working for this individual. As in, there's a part of you that wants to work with your emotions, and then the emotions are like, hey, because we're really balanced, or we can like let you know what's going on, they inform you of what's going on with you, if something feels right, wrong, where you're at and stuff, because a lot of people gauge their life based on how they feel emotionally. And as you become more emotionally intelligent, you can really use every emotion to your benefit, no matter how you're feeling, which is really fun and beautiful. Actually, if you ever want, I can make like a whole video about how that is actually a super valuable psychic inner compass thing to work with. But going on, in reverse, you don't want that. There's a certain part of you that wants to be surprised by your emotions. You don't want to simply, it feels almost boring to be like, okay, if I feel this way, then this must mean my life is going like this, or I should head in this direction. There's a part of you that loves the joy of whatever you're going to feel next is a bit of a surprise. And there's a part of you that pushes away certain parts of that knowledge because you are capable of having that knowledge and that interaction. And the part that makes me laugh a little bit is like, you're like, I could have this, I don't want to because it's boring. So again, very surprising, because the main question at hand is what's bringing your inner self the most joy. I did check because in the long term, I wasn't sure if that over time might get tiring for you. And I want to be clear about this. Sometimes I'm going to do the best I can to express this. And I know this is going to seem far out, but stick with me here. Sometimes we master an idea and then we stop exercising the idea, and then somewhere along the line we think we forgot how to exercise the idea. Very similar ideas when people feel like they're in their flow, and then over time they maybe forgot it and then they think they've lost it, but in reality they're letting themselves focus more on the thinking they forgot it rather than honing on to the flow itself and like just being in that state of mind and reminding themselves they do know what they're doing. This is actually a very common thing. Spirit guides say they'll be like, you know what you're doing, and you might go, no, I don't. Trust me, I say this from a lot of experience. If a spirit guide gives you a compliment or says you do know what you're doing, I'm telling you, you do know what you're doing. It's just you think in order to know what you're doing and get there in the long term, you have to sort of have a very specific way of it working out, like a step-by-step guide. But sometimes it's just a level of stop saying, I don't know, and I forget, and I'm not sure, and how, and getting those words out of the way to let there be enough space for it to naturally sort of like come into your vicinity, or for you naturally to connect with it. Again, a very abstract idea that I'm doing the best I can to describe in a succinct level time. I can make a video to go deeper into that another time. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. But going forward, this is totally fine that this makes you happy. I actually think it's really charming and cute, and it actually helps you better understand yourself. That you do know what you're doing, but there's a part of you that's like, this is fun. Again, not self-sabotaging, but you're like, I like not knowing. You know what I mean? I like this on some level. You're choosing this. But I was concerned that in the long term, you might want to reconnect with your master abilities. Would you at any certain point, should this be changed, or is this open to changing? Basically, my spirit guide was like, yeah, this is open to changing. This is bringing you your inner self happiness right now. And so again, I'm not saying you have to do this, but if in the long term it starts to not feel fun, the surprise of your emotions, and you do want to be more connected to it, just know that you're a queen, as in you have mastered the ability. Don't practice things like I don't know, all the things I just expressed. Do the best you can to breathe, give yourself some space, meditate on the idea that you do know what you're doing, and let it come to you energetically, because you're never losing the ability. You're just kind of in your head about how to get there. And sometimes, isn't this how it always is? You're like, I'm not sure how I'm doing it, I'm just doing it. And so when you stop doing it, you're like, because I wasn't sure how I did it in the first place, I'm not sure how to reconnect to what was natural before. That's very much the headspace sometimes people can get in. You just try to not ask the how and just naturally lean into it. Again, I can make a video with more clarification another time. But the point is, if you would like to change that, just know like you already mastered it, which means you can come back to exercising more of a conscious working with the sea working with you type of emotional mindset. So just keep that in mind. But I think that's really fun and cute. Then last, we have the King of Cups. Now, in the King of Cups, sorry about the interruption. Going back to what we were talking about here. So the King of Cups here is somebody who, when it's normally upright, he is able to perceive his world through emotions. He's a master of them. So remember, often people use their emotions to intuitively navigate things. Keep that in mind. It's better to do it from a king's perspective than another state, because sometimes we perceive like energy or concepts emotionally a certain way rather than what they are. As in, something might emotionally make you feel like weary of something, but that doesn't actually mean that that thing is something you need to be concerned about. So the king is in a better control of his emotions, so he's able to rely on it more, essentially. Fun fact, emotions are actually a byproduct of energy. So just something to food for thought to think about. So in this particular case, when he's normally upright and he's a master of it, again, you are, he can really use it to sense things, intuitively guide him, how to perceive concepts, decisions, anything, interacting with people, understanding where interactions between people go. He's just totally thinking and working on that level because he's so aware and able to work with it consciously and understand that consciousness. But again, it goes back to that element of surprise for you. You can do that. You are able to do that. But there's like a part of you that doesn't want to have to solely perceive things from that. There's a part of you that wants to try things out in a different way. You'd love to be able to make a decision, not going back internally and asking your emotions how you feel about a situation, but thinking from a different state of mind or feeling. With the emotions being so well mastered, which makes sense because if you are such, when you're bringing this type of energy over here, this very like leadership type of mentality via your own life. And again, this doesn't necessarily mean leading other people, but it's sort of like you view your life as something to lead, if that makes sense. You're very, you're going to be very aware of your emotions, able to work with them, being very good at expressing and understanding them, which makes sense that there's a part of you that amongst all of this like order and understanding, there's a part of you that's like, I want to have fun and just not know. I could know. I've developed the ability to know, but I kind of want to not know when we talked about over here. In the King of Cups, again, it's that concept of idea of, yeah, you could always rely on your emotions, but there's a part of you that wants to explore other decision making from not solely that place and understand, because it's almost like a boredom thing. It's like, yeah, I already mastered that. I want something new. I want it to feel fresh. I want it to be exciting. That's why it's so interesting about what's going on with like the flavor I would describe you here, because when we have these type of personalities, anything that's like leadership type of position, there is sort of like a long-standing vibe about the person. I'm trying to explain this best I can. I don't want to say serious, but there's a certain part of them of like when you have to lead in that kind of way. Again, we're using lead very facetiously here. I wouldn't describe you as solely leading people in your life. There's going to be redundancy. There's going to need to be stability. Often when people think of stability or very clearly thinking out decisions, there's a sense of slowness. There's a sense of lack of surprises, that type of thing. And there's a part of you that's like, I want to be very confident in the long term of decision making and be really aware of that. And you love being so well thought out. You've not only thought of the now, you've thought of the what could be, but not as in what if scenarios, but as in the after effect of all the positive things it can affect. But there is also a part of you that's like, yeah, I'm good at stuff, but I want it to feel fresh and exciting and spontaneous and new, like we talked about in the Queen of Pentacles as well. So I love this for you because these are things to think about if you're ever concerned and you want to go back to and rely on your knowledge. You have mastered these things and these are compliments and you can go back to that. But if you ever in your life reflect and you're like, why am I like this? It's because deep down it gives you great joy to be surprised, because ultimately you do know the answer, you do know what to do, you do know how to navigate stuff, but you just want to try new things and do things a little bit differently. And that makes sense with everything we talked about here. There's a lot of wanting choice and ebb and flow. There's a lot of like fluidity and stability going on. And this beautifully marks out how to find that flow and therefore feel the most like yourself and therefore bring that inner self of you the most joy. But things can be evolved and changed upon, which is really fun and a cool thing. So I love this for you. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. I love to know what you think. And leave this video a like and a comment and hit that note. Oh, I said comment. Hit that subscribe and notification bell. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. It means the most to me. Yeah, I said that correctly. I'm wishing you the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and goodbye.